بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله أعدائهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And a second salawat for Abdullah wa Habibullah Muhammad al-Mustafa.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And a third salawat for Asadullah al-Ghalib Ali ibn Abi Talib Amir al-Mu'mineen.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And a final salawat for Al-Qa'im al-Mahdi.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Glory be to him who made his servant to go on a night from the sacred mosque to the remote mosque. Sadaqallah al-Alim al-Alim. Tonight's discussion is going to be answering the question in part, how can I be more spiritual? As a speaker and wherever you go, you always hear this question, how can I be more spiritual? So we're going to delve into that partly tonight and we'll continue it tomorrow inshallah. But to be honest, that word itself, I don't like the way it's used a lot of the time. How can I, as if they think they're going to be deep or religious or something elevated. You know, on Facebook, religious views, spiritual. What does that mean, spiritual? Does anyone have you ask them, what does that mean that you're spiritual? How do you become spiritual? What does that, can you define what spirituality is? They'll just know, religious views, spiritual. So today we're going to try to discuss what spirituality is and try to understand it and try to implement it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So the beginning nights, we discussed happiness. We said religiosity would bring you to happiness. And then we recognized that an obstacle to that was what? Boredom. Right? And so tonight, like I said, will be a two-part attack. Part today and part tomorrow. Today, you're gonna come to understand something about yourself, and you have to ask something to yourself as how you can become spiritual. And tomorrow we'll look at the methods the Ahlul Bayt they themselves used in this quest. So that will be Alaykum Assalam. So I'll start off by saying spirituality. People are like, oh Hussein, oh brother Ali, oh brother cousin. When did you become religious? Or what happened? As if some miraculous event needs to happen for me to become religious or become spiritual. That's not the case. I mentioned earlier, the angels come to prophets. Unless we're a prophet, it's not going to happen. Or one of the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No miracle necessarily needs to happen in front of your face. And even if a miracle does, it does not even mean you'll believe. What does the Quran come and tell us in chapter 17? Or bring Allah and the angels face to face with us. Here the disbelievers, they're telling the Prophet, you want us to believe? We want to see Allah's face and the angels. And if they saw, don't even think they would believe. Because belief doesn't depend on seeing. Imam Ali also says, the vision of the eye is limited, but vision of the heart transcends time and space. This is how you believe, with the vision of the heart, not with the vision of the eyes. Because if you expect to become religious or spiritual by seeing a miracle, another Quranic proof that that's not the case is what? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He do for the Prophet? And the hour drew close and near, and the moon did rend asunder. When the Prophet split the moon into two, do you want a greater miracle than that? How great of a miracle is that? What did the disbelievers come and say? And if they see a miracle, they turn aside and say what? It's transient magic. So you tell yourself, if this happens, but then you'll make an excuse to disbelieve it. Oh, it was a dream. Oh, I was hallucinating. To become spiritual, you need to believe from your heart and feel with your heart. It's not a matter of the physical world and something you can vision. And brothers and sisters, if you're looking for a miracle, don't look too far. Look at yourselves. Look at yourself as a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala engineered you. Look how Allah created you. And in that of its own, there's a miracle there. When you come to understand your eyes and your fingers and your bodily functions, this is a list of miracles all in itself. Just some quick fun facts on this. Just one human cell requires 3 feet of DNA code. One human cell requires 3 feet of DNA code. Imagine 1, 2, Jay-Z, all just for one human cell. Is that not a miracle? When your body is made up of 100 trillion cells. As an engineer who spoke, this number is baffling. If one human cell makes up 3 feet of DNA code, and every body has, let's say, 100 trillion cells, is that not a miracle? Is your sight not a miracle? When your eyes dry up and the moisture the fluid that moistens it, is that not a miracle? To continue this point, if you were just to take your DNA and stack it end by end, do you know where it would reach? And we're talking a DNA, how big? Invisible to the human eye, it would reach from here to the sun and back 600 times. 600 times. And the sun is 150 million kilometers away. Is that not a miracle? And this is all within you right now, engineered within you. Is the distance from here to the sun and back 600 times. And you're talking not of blocks, for example a chair, you're talking DNA. And you can't even see it without a microscope, am I right? One other interesting fact, something I came by I thought was so beautiful. We all sitting here, what are we created from? Certain elements that were sent into space by a supernova. For example, iron that's made in our blood, calcium in our bone, carbon. These are only created inside the furnace of a star. And when it explodes, they shoot out into space and they incorporate into new stars and into new planets and into you. So brothers and sisters, we look at each other here. We are created from stardust. Is that not a miracle? Stardust that has been traveling for billions of light years. That's your composition. So how far of a miracle do you want? What else do you need to look for? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So back to the question, how can I become spiritual? As if we're looking for a miracle, right? How can I become spiritual? The question doesn't first lie with me, it lies with you. You have to ask yourself that. I can't come and tell you what will work for you. We're created differently and we all have our own minds and we all have our own intricacies and we all have our own talents and faults. You have to look into yourself to come and find out what is your spiritual journey towards Allah. How could you serve Him? What path is meant for you? I started off with reciting what verse? Glory be to Him who has made His servant go from one night from Masjid al-Haram all the way to the remote mosque. That was the Mi'raj of the Prophet. So now you have to come and ask yourself, what is your Mi'raj? What is your personal ascension towards Allah? What is your intimate journey? What is your intimate path? This is something, brothers and sisters, you have to figure out on your own. Something you have to ask yourself, what is the road I want to take to get to Allah? What is the road I want to travel to get to Allah? And from there, then we'll look at the methods of Ahlul Bayt that will also further help support our path and our spiritual journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which inshallah we'll look at tomorrow. And sticking on this point, about knowing what works for you, what does Imam Ali come and teach us? He says it so beautifully. The one who knows others has knowledge, but the one who knows himself is enlightened. Look how beautifully put that is. We may know a million things about a million different people, and I ask you about this Hajj and this Hajj, we'll have a million different answers. And about this team, no problem, I'll tell you facts from A to B. But the one who knows others has knowledge. But the one who knows himself is enlightened. And the Prophet continues to say what? There are as many ways to Allah as the breath you take. So my path could be different than your path. And vice versa. So we have to look deep into ourselves and ask ourselves, in which way do I want to serve Allah on the spiritual journey towards Him? For example, maybe be a teacher at the Saturday school. This will make Sayyid Hussein happy. Maybe it's donating money to the markaz every month. Right? Maybe your journey will be volunteering with the food. Maybe your journey will be helping addicts, working at homeless shelters. Maybe your journey will be being a nurse. Oh, I'm not here to tell you. This is for you to figure out. Maybe your journey will be one day speaking, reciting Quran, working with a youth club. You have to find a way to serve Allah's creation. And in turn, this is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet comes and says, the most favorite of people are those who work in the service of people. So you have to be in the service of your people. Be in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation and help the weak. Ahlul Bayt were always there in support of the people. That was their Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us anbiya for who? And ma'sumin for who? For the people. So you have to ask yourself, how could you serve the people? And how could you serve, and in turn, serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And this road, brothers, like I discussed yesterday, will not be easy. Obstacles will come. And the shaitan will attack. On this journey, you have to protect yourself from sins. You have to protect yourself from sinning, because this will affect you, the way you think and the way you look. We discussed this with some of the brothers last night after the majlis here. Every sin you commit, every mistake you make, will not only affect you spiritually, but will affect the physical look you have. Physically, it will affect the way you look. For example, if I'm stressed out, can't you tell? If I'm sad, can't you tell? So the way I feel on the inside will definitely represent itself on the way I look on the outside. Imam Hussein when he stands in Karbala, what does he come and say? Why, when he's doing tabligh to the kuffar, what does he come and say to them? They can't hear me because of the haram that's in their stomach. Right? We have to be very careful from eating haram, and we have to protect ourselves from this sin. We have to protect ourselves from the things we see and the things we look at. This world is very interconnected. For example, the things I see will affect me. The things I hear will affect me. What I project out will affect others. For example, right now, imagine I'm breathing the air that the Prophet breathed. Everything is interconnected with one another. When I look at the moon, I'm looking at the moon that the Prophet split. And I'm in turn looking at the moon that the Prophet, he himself looked at. There's an interconnectedness that exists within this creation from the beginning of time to the end of time, and it all has an effect on you. Why, for example, is it makruh to travel on this night? Mustahab to travel on that night? There's a science behind that, and there's a hikmah behind that. It's because of the interconnectedness of this universe and the way everything plays together. Do you get what I mean? So sins will affect you. One sin I wanted to discuss outside of protecting yourself from haram food is what? Music. Music. The content of music. The places music is played at. The activity the music industry supports. I'm going to give you an experiment, and I'll let you imagine how bad an effect music will have on you if this is what happens with this experiment I'll explain. 3 cups of rice. I want everyone here to try it. 3 cups of rice. You put 3 cups, and you put rice, 3 cups of water, and you put rice in the 3 cups. With 1 cup, speak beautiful things to it. You're beautiful, you will taste good, you'll smell good, A, B, C, D. With the other cup of water and rice, ignore it. Don't say nothing to it. And finally, with the 3rd cup, say you look bad, you'll smell bad, your taste bad, your color is horrible. Leave these 3 cups for 1 month in your garage. It's amazing. My friend did this experiment twice. We saw it on YouTube. And then he went back to it 1 month later twice. The cup that he spoke beautifully to, it smelled good and it looked good. Imagine. The cup he spoke badly to had the most foul smell. And then finally the cup he ignored was starting to mold. Why? Imagine. Imagine the connection through the energy I shared with the rice. Look how it affected 3 cups of rice. That's with 1 or 2 words, and then look at 1 month later the effect it had on the 3 cups of rice. We're made of how much water? So imagine you're listening to Quran all day. Imagine you're listening to majalis all day. You're listening, forget outside these things. Good words, dhikr, praises of Ahlul Bayt. Salaamu Alaikum. I love you, you love me, you're beautiful. Speak together, what kind of effect will that have on you? You'll smell beautiful and you'll look beautiful, and that's what we say, oh, look at that person's face. His face is bright, it's illuminated. It's a reality. Because of what but now imagine the opposite. You expose yourself to cursing, to swearing, to bad, to music that endorses all sorts of activities. What kind of effect will that have on the way you look? I'll tell you. For example, you listen to hip hop. He's wearing baggy clothes, he's wearing this cap, it's a flat top, ABCD. Why? Based on the kind of music he listens, I can tell the kind of dress he's gonna wear. This person listens to punk. He's gonna dress all black or like dress like an emo. This person listens to hard rock. He has this and other this. And for example, the person that listens to hip hop does weed. The person that listens to techno does E or speed. The person that listens to hard rock gets drunk or does that. So based on the genre of music, he takes a certain look. His friends are all, have you ever seen a guy dressed like an emo sit with a guy that dresses like a thug? No, they don't sit with each other, right? All based on what? Music. An industry built for the shaitan. That's not a very light reality to understand. Oh, it's just music. Oh, it's not a big deal. Look how I just described music. Look how it takes over the entire persona and identity of a human is music. You're gonna tell me, Hussein, no problem. I listen to music. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So I listen. Someone's gonna tell me I listen to music, Hussein, and I don't dress like a thug, and I don't dress like an emo, and I don't dress like a Italian Gino, whatnot. And I listen to whatever. It makes, it doesn't affect me. I like it in my car. That's an effect right there. What, you can't sit by 2 minutes by yourself and just think? You can't enjoy a car ride and just reflect upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You can't just enjoy the scenery? You can't just think and reflect on who you are for a minute in a car ride? In a car, you're sitting with 2 people. You have to put music. Why? Why do you have to put music? But if you're sitting at home in the basement, music doesn't need to be there. You can talk, right? So, but why in a car, it all changes now. I have to have music, I'm in the car. Right? Why? What happened? What's the difference between sitting at home with no music or sitting, before I go to bed, I have to put music? What happened to you saying music doesn't affect you? It doesn't change the way I look. On top of that, if you say it doesn't change the way you look, it doesn't play with your emotions? If you're in a bad mood, you listen to this kind of music and it'll affect the way you feel. You're in a good mood, it'll affect the way you feel. You want to go to the gym, for example, you'll put on something to pump you up. You're about to have a game. So how is it not affecting you if it's playing with your emotions like that? When you're in a bad mood, you want to listen to something down. When you want to get hyped up, you listen to something hard. And you're going to tell me it doesn't affect the way you think? صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. What does Imam Ali come and tell us about the one who listens to music? He says, the one whose heart shakes, gets excited upon listening to a note of music, it's as if he slapped Ali on his face. That's the extent of this sin. So we're here commemorating Imam al-Hussein, right? But at the same time, the one who listens to one note of music is as if he slapped the Imam on his face. I don't want anyone to come to, oh, it's too hard. Music, I can't do it. The ashir, I'll take it off. The next day, it's back on. Who are you lying to yourself, to me, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Imam al-Zaman that's listening, that's seeing? It's not impossible. You have it. Is music that overwhelming and that powerful that you don't have the ability to just press the off button? Are you that controlled? Is your mind that dominated by this industry that you need to listen? You have to ask yourself that. Are you owned that badly by this? Who was a man that left the camp of Yazid while they were listening to music? Hur. And when he left that camp and he heard the drums, he comes, he listens to Imam al-Hussein ﷺ, and when he says what? Is there no one who would hasten to assist us in the name of Allah? Is there no one that would defend the house of the Prophet? Here, Hur goes ask Umar ibn Sa'd, are we actually going to fight? Yes, by Allah, the battle which goes, if it goes smoothly, will result in the heads rolling and the limbs flying. This was the camp that listened to music. So ask yourself where you want to be. They listen to music. At this point, Hur here, he sits with one of his companions, Muhajir bin Aus, and he looks at him, he's trembling, he's shaken. And he looks at him and he says, why are you shivering like this? If I was to be asked who was the most bravest soldier, I would say it was you. Why now at this moment do you seem so nervous? Here he says, and by Allah, I shall not exalt anything. And by Allah, I find myself between paradise and hell. And by Allah, I shall not exalt anything else over paradise, even if I be cut into pieces or burnt. Here he's seeing himself between heaven and hell, and he has to choose. And at this point, he flees the camp of Amr ibn Sa'd. And the point I want to focus on, Hur, with coming towards Imam al-Hussein like a prisoner and in shame, he says, oh Allah, I am returning towards you. As he's striding towards his Imam. Why does he say, oh Allah, I'm returning towards you? Because if you want to go to Allah, you have to go to your Imam. And through your Imam, you'll go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, he says, as he's running towards his Imam, I am returning towards you. Thus, please accept me. I have put fear into the hearts of your friends and into the grandchildren of Rasulullah. At this point, he asks Abu Abdullah, please forgive me, for I've brought you to this point. Imam al-Hussein ﷺ speaks on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and says what? May Allah accept your repentance. He went towards Allah. How? By going towards his Imam, and his Imam says Allah will forgive you. This is a lesson, brothers and sisters. And then at the martyrdom of Hur, when Imam Hussein goes near him, it says the blood was flowing out of him. And he says, well done, Hur. You are free in this world and in the hereafter, as your mother has named you. And we go to another two companions who fought alongside Imam al-Hussein, protecting the prayer of Imam al-Hussein, Zuhair ibn al-Kaim. When the Imam calls for him, he's first hesitant to go. And then his wife says, oh Zuhair, she tells him, why so hesitant? When the descendants of the Prophet has summoned you and you refuse to go? So at this point he goes and he comes back and his face is shining and he's happy. And he comes and he tells the Imam as it's time for prayer, he says, this is now the time for our last prayer. And by God, I must get killed before you, and I would like to have my prayer held with you if I meet God. So here they build a barrier, him and Sa'd ibn Abdullah, beside in their Imam. As the arrows are being thrown and catapulted on the Imam, they stand there protecting him from these arrows with their bodies to protect Salah. And at this point, Sa'id fell down to the ground from the amount of arrows that were hitting him. And before he demised, he said, "Are you proud of me? Are you pleased with me?" The Imam replies to him, "You'll be ahead of me in heaven." And at this point, Zuhair also entered the battlefield, and after killing 120, the wife that told him to go serve his Imam comes and says, what to the slave? "Oh slave, go and dress your Lord Zuhair, go dress your master Zuhair with a shroud." But Zuhair's servant, when he ran into the field and he saw the body of the Imam sitting there with no shroud, what does he come and say? "How do I shroud my Lord Zuhair but leave Hussein with no clothes? I swear I won't do that." Then he wrapped the Imam with the shroud he brought, and he left some tattered clothing for Zuhair ibn al-Kain. And at this point we come and ask, little did that servant know that the hooves of Umar ibn Sa'd would not leave the body of Imam al-Hussein unclothed. Sallallahu I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enlighten us with our journey and enable us to walk it with strength and with patience. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be of Ibaduhu Salihin, the Habba of Muhammad wa Al Muhammad, the Shi'as of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the Muntadhirin of Sahib al-Zaman. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.